people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Fresh on the heels of her first professional loss, up-and-comer Emma Dolan said, "People say they're quote-unquote good losers, good sports. That's not me. I'm an awful loser. I hate it. This has lit an even bigger fire in me to go out and achieve what I want and what I know I can in the sport. I will be back out this year. There's plenty of time over the summer, fall, and winter months for Emma Dolan to get back in the winner's bracket and perhaps take her time. What the fight showed us, the fight with Irma Garcia, was that it was perhaps too soon for Emma to be fighting somebody like that. Someone who's so much more experienced than she is, a veteran of 30 professional fights and a reigning world champion. It was a miscalculation on everybody's part, mine included, because I was confident. I was comfortable with Emma Dolan winning a points decision, and the fight didn't even last that long. What took everybody by surprise, I think, was the intensity of Irma Garcia upon the opening bell sounding, shooting out of her corner like a bat out of hell, laying overhand punches on Emma Dolan, who just didn't seem ready. She was perhaps surprised, too, by the demeanor of the defending champion, who isn't even known as a big puncher or a knockout merchant. For Irma to come out of her corner like that, I guess that she caught Emma off guard. So now Emma sports a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having been knocked out at least once in her last professional fight. Plenty of time to get her back out there and back in the winner's bracket, one of the taller fighters you'll find anywhere at or around super flyweight, now finding herself in a very similar position to the one she put both Nicola Hopewell and Shannon Ryan in, giving them their first professional losses. She has now suffered hers. Perhaps she can have rematches with both, en route to rebuilding herself and recovering, fighting for an alphabet title again, getting back in line for one. The fight with Irma Garcia only lasted about 3 rounds, so there's very little to derive from what you saw other than Irma was a bigger puncher than Emma, she came at her hard and fast, and Emma wasn't able to deal. Hindsight being 2020, and Emma only having 8 professional fights going in to Irma Garcia's 31. She just wasn't ready. Wasn't prepared to deal with the intensity and the power of an Irma Garcia. Put simply, perhaps what Emma Dolan really needed to win that fight was more poise and more experience than she had going in, and that's something that she can only develop over time, to learn to deal with a very intense fighter who's barreling forward, shooting overhands while they do it. Those eggs need more bacon. To make matters worse, the Irma Garcia fight was arguably the most winnable fight. That is, Irma represented the most beatable champion, the oldest champion of anybody at super flyweight, because if you can't make it past her, fat chance that you make it past a younger Adelaida Ruiz, who would basically do the same thing, barrel forward throwing punches and bunches. And what about Jasmine Artiga? What about Mizuki Hiruta? If you couldn't deal with Irma, who's in her early 40s, it's a hard sell that you're going to be able to deal with them. Not at this time, but believe it or not, the situation is not untenable. All hope is not lost. What Emma Dolan needs to do is give herself time to rebuild and refine her methods. Her base style is best described as something similar to Tyson Fury's, a very long and limber fighter that fights on their toes and manages the distance while doing so. She's not an artillery fighter. She's more of a boxer's boxer, thinking man's boxer, a cerebral fighter. Having had this experience, she now has that to draw from in the future, to recognize the danger and don't let it happen again. So I expect to see Emma Dolan back in action at some point over the summer months. I think the wheels are already in motion to get her back out there on a smaller show somewhere in the UK. Maybe squeeze in 2 more fights before the year is out, because there is time to do it. The situation isn't hopeless. Many years ago, I saw Natasha Jonas suffer a similar knockout loss to Vivian Obanoff. And look at Natasha now. Look at how far she's come, rebounding off that loss. Emma Dolan can do the exact same thing, and I still think she's one of the better young fighters in this division. Best wishes to her! And now it's time for another installment of what is fast becoming the most popular segment here on the channel. Ring IQ Hate Mail! The David Benavidez fans are back. The David Benavidez stands, one who goes by the name Jessa. Jessa said, LOL, these are some clowns. This is the biggest hater channel of all time. Yeah, that's what young people like to say when they don't have a retort, when they don't have an equal and opposing argument to the facts that I bring up all the time. Call me a hater. Because I want to see David fight Jai Opetaia? Call me a hater. Because I was right when I said that he's not going back down to 175? If that makes you feel better, call me a hater. Just don't call me a liar, because you know you can't. Traffic's GV said, another video mentioning Benavidez, damn bro, for as much as you hate and say Benavidez is overrated, you sure do give him a lot of airtime on your channel. Why wouldn't I? Nobody else is going to. You've got enough content creators pretending that he's the new face of boxing and the best thing since sliced bread. All while ignoring the fact that his last fight couldn't have done robust numbers, because if it had, we'd know by now. It happened the same day as Inoue's fight, and we know Inoue's numbers from halfway around the world. Where are David's? Now you claim that I'm giving old Davy Boy a lot of airtime, buddy. I just did about 7 videos without mentioning David Benavidez once, not even in passing. Across 3 separate stories of videos, sometimes 4, 7 videos overall before mentioning him in my last one. And he wasn't even the main story. Jai Opetaia was. So what do you want I should do? I should talk about a champion at Cruiser. You want that I should talk about Jai Opetaia, but not talk about Jai Opetaia wanting to fight him? And what is an even more long-winded comment from our old buddy, Hands in Your Pockets, who said, rather than deal with your obvious bias and hypocrisy, you just lazily repeated your weak point about you criticizing other fighters and claiming that I'm a fanboy. You are a fanboy. I'm not a fan of David, but when I see a clear pound-for-pound fighter getting undue criticism on every post on this channel just because you're butthurt that he gained success. Butthurt that he gained success? I predicted his success. It sounds more like you're butthurt that I was right. I react. As I said to one of your other simps, the facts stand and I'm objectively right. Right about what? What were you right about? The only one of us that was right about anything was me 2 years ago when I said David won't stay at light heavyweight long. He's gonna move up to cruiser, and when he does, he's gonna fight Zerto. So what is it that you presume to be right about? Because I've got receipts for what I said. What are you saying? Leave David alone. Moreover, it can be proved so, just as easily as your argument about other fighters' equal criticism can be disproved. You just need to run a poll in your next live that asks, which fighter do I dog more than any other fighter in every single video post? Oh, well, I could tell you who'd come in first place. David Benavidez would. Right now he would. But that wasn't always the case before him. It might have been Ryan Garcia or Gervonta Davis. It varies from fighter to fighter, period to period. Do you know how many fanboys just like you I've had to deal with over the years for doing to David what I've done to so many other fighters? Leave David alone. I mean, at its base, that's what your argument is. Leave David alone. Why should I? You won't do it, because you know that an untold silent majority will agree with me. Jules, if you're capable of making a good faith, honest argument, feel free to respond to this, but please, the rest of your echo chamber, save your remaining brain cells. I haven't got the patience to debate with moronic casuals, except you didn't debate anything, Hans. Hans, or whatever the fuck your name is. This is not a debate. This is just you crying a river that I'm not being nice to your new favorite fighter because you're not actually addressing what I said. Point by bullet point.
Why are you mad?
I'm not doing anything to David Benavidez that I didn't already do to Ryan Garcia or Gervonta Davis before him or a lot of other fighters, but this is the only one you get in your tits about.
Why are you mad?
You're trying to establish that I have a bias against David when it looks more like you have a bias for him. All I'm doing is advocating for a fight, like a boxing fan would, like a boxing fan should. And what are you doing? You're not acknowledging that everything I said about David turned out to be true. That he wouldn't stay at light heavyweight very long, which he didn't. That he would move up to cruiser and fight Zerto as soon as he gets there. And once he does, he's gonna beat him, and he's not gonna move back down. All of which turned out to be true, and you don't want to address any of that. You instead address me personally and take shots at me because you can't poke holes in my argument. It's the old don't listen to nothing this guy says argument, no matter how true it is, because he's biased. Very weak stratagem often used by those who don't have an equal and opposing retort, an equal and opposing argument, because nobody asked David Benavidez to either go to Zuffa or fight for a Zuffa belt or fight on Paramount. Or did you not hear what he said? That's what I was addressing. Jai Opetaia going to Zuffa is not an obstacle. David is making it one. Nobody, not even Dana White, is expecting David Benavidez to migrate over to Zuffa. If you want to fight Jai, which we all know he doesn't, but if he did, you can fight him on one of Turkey's shows, which you've already boxed on at least once. Nobody asked you to go to Zuffa. Nobody asked you to fight for a Zuffa belt. Nobody said that. And nobody among David Benavidez's supporters wants to address that part. Hands in your pockets doesn't even want me to talk about it.
Why are you mad?
And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if David Benavidez didn't fight Jai Opetaia next, which we all know he's not going to. If he actually were going to go back down to light heavyweight, and he were going to fight Dmitry Bivol, except we all know that he's not. He knows that he's not. And so do you. So why are you playing dumb, expecting me to do the same thing? For what? Because this guy just beat up on his old sparring partner that he's got over 100 rounds of sparring with? Are you that impressed? Sounds like it. It always goes the same way with these fanboy types when I make my case. They don't want to address what I said point by bullet point. They instead want to attack me, as if they're saying something, when you don't have to come here, you know. There are plenty of other channels out there that are over the moon with David Benavidez that maybe you should watch one of them. If you don't want to hear the truth and you don't want to know what's really going to happen, just go over there. Watch one of them. The reason you're still watching me is because you know I'm often right about these things. The collective effort from David Benavidez's cult of followers waiting for a gotcha moment that they still haven't had. If it's not this guy, Miss Jerry Soriano. You want I should address what's going on with Jai Opetaia, but fail to mention the man he's after, the man that he wants to fight, the man with 2 alphabet titles at this same weight, David Benavidez? What kind of boxing fans are these? He's getting mad at me for literally pushing for a fight. Because I guess he doesn't want me to do that? What kind of boxing fans are these?
So Lomachenko has officially unretired. According to Team Lomachenko, his deal with Top Rank expired on May the 12th. It's only a couple days ago. He's already talking about fighting the biggest fights possible. He is a free agent, looking for what's out there. I got to think it's going to be Zuffa. Zuffa has a lot of money going out to a lot of these big-name fighters. Makes a ton of sense for a guy like Lomachenko, who's only 38 years old, went out on a win, looked good, and he's a very smart guy who probably has stayed in the gym, and I imagine that he's already been in the gym preparing for this moment. But he's looking for big fights only. No tune-ups. Right for the biggest fights possible. Right for the biggest paychecks possible, too, I'm sure. This doesn't surprise me one bit. I think Lomachenko, based on what I said, age, where he finished up his career, and what's happening right now in the world, the world of boxing, there's an ability to make massive, massive amounts of money, generational wealth type of money with the deals that are getting talked about with Zuffa. We see guys like Devin Haney talking about it, Shakur Stevenson. We saw a huge deal with Conor Benn. Lomachenko wants a piece of that pie, and I don't blame him. What kind of fights that are out there? I mean, a rematch with Teofimo Lopez seems pretty big to me. Calling out the best guy in the world, best young fighter in the world right now, Shakur Stevenson, makes sense to me. Gervonta Davis is always potential to get back in the mix, a fight that is talked about. How about a rematch with Devin Haney? These are all viable, huge fights that Lomachenko could be involved in. Which of those fights do you think is most likely to happen when Lomachenko does return?
None of them. Because many of the names that young Chris Algieri mentioned have either moved up or moved on, remember? Vasyl Lomachenko's likely to come back as a lightweight. He just doesn't have the size to campaign as a 140-pounder, and Zuffa doesn't have a 140-pound division. Since Chris believes what I believe, that Vasyl Lomachenko's not coming back to do the same old thing, to fight for the same old belts, that same old undisputed run. At this point, it's about all the money that he didn't make. So far, Vasyl Lomachenko's been successful, pound for pound, and all those things. But he never made the same kind of money that Devin made, boxing on turkey shows, and Usyk made, and Shakur made. That's what he's back for. More than belts and more of the same, so when you think about who is it that he is going to end up fighting, I don't think it's going to be Devin, because Devin's currently at welterweight and Teofimo is en route there. I'm not sure about Shakur, because he's up there at 140. He's got the brown belt. He could always drop down, but even if he did, is that a fight that Vasyl Lomachenko is receptive to? And you think about Gervonta's all tied up with litigation. What about Floyd Schofield? He's not busy with nothing. He just caught Loma out.
What's up, everybody? I just want to say, first and foremost, congratulations to Lomachenko on his return to the sport of boxing. I think it's great for a great fighter like Lomachenko to be returning. Wish you nothing but success and more titles. Hopefully we can run it, after I finish off with Lucas Body and Gary Russell. Hopefully we can run it before you decide to retire fully. But like I said, congratulations. And we'll have news for y'all soon. We're looking for June or July for a fight. Y'all know me, I'm staying in the gym, staying sharp, and staying ready for that call. So, yeah, anyways, like I said, congratulations to Lomachenko. And make sure y'all tune in for the big news we'll have for y'all soon, because it's going to be a good one.
Is that Floyd Schofield posting from Floyd Schofield's own X account? Because, usually that's his dad on there saying all that stuff. It looks like young Floyd is finally growing up. But, of course, I don't think it's going to be Floyd Schofield that Vasyl Lomachenko ends up fighting on the Zuffa side of things. Not because he's on Zuffa, that's where I think he's coming back, but because Floyd Schofield doesn't represent a big fight for Vasyl Lomachenko, and right now, he has nothing to offer, the former three-weight world champion. So for what reason would Loma end up fighting him? I think strategic use of a familiar face on the part of Zuffa is all about selling you on their lightweight division and that version of the Zuffa title. Vasyl Lomachenko is a highly esteemed professional, revered by many. That's why so many are reacting to his return. Zuffa knows that. Remember what I told you a few months ago? To help legitimize their version of a title, they're gonna conjure up familiar faces and fighters, some that you know, on the premise that they've already proven themselves. Vasyl Lomachenko has already fought for the other titles, and to many people, he should be undisputed now. He didn't lose to Devin. He got robbed. If you ask around, that's the answer you're gonna get. He's legit. And that's the point. You can try to legitimize the Zuffa belt by having a legitimate fighter holding it. Like what they did with Jayo Pataya. I believe they're going to now try to do that with Vasyl Lomachenko, except Vasyl Lomachenko doesn't have any titles that you can strip him of. Making all of this a seamless transition, and for more money than he was likely making at Top Rank. Why else would a 38-year-old fighter come out of retirement? It's not to do more of the same. He was heartbroken after that Devin Haney fight. He wanted to retire right then and there. The only reason he didn't is because his father urged him not to. Don't retire off a loss. So he comes back, he knocks out George Kambosos, and seemingly sails into the sunset, only to come back under different circumstances. I don't think it's about legacy anymore for Vasyl Lomachenko. I think it's about making the money that he didn't get to make on the top-ranked side of things. And fortunate for him, Zuffa's got a lot of it to spend, a lot of it to give. That's why he's back.